Welcome back to Beer with Nat. On every episode, I share a beer and a chat with people who do what they love for a living. They work in the beer industry. Today's guest is Louisa Ziane, Global Brand and Sustainability Director for Toast Ale. You'll hear all about how Louisa helped get Toast off the ground and how her varied background, from law and accounting to consulting and digital marketing, made her the perfect person for the job. Louisa also tells us about Toast's mission and why it's so important to her, and of course, what she enjoys most about being a part of the beer industry. Here she is.
So I have chosen Flower Power, which is a collaboration beer. We produced it with Stroud Brewery, so it's a Toast and Stroud Brewery collab. It is an amber ale, 4.1%.
Oh, perfect.
So
nice, easy
fairly
afternoon
light,
session.
easy drinker, perfect for summer days. And this one was actually a partnership that we did with Friends of the Earth to raise awareness of the work that they're doing on climate change and to reach out to a different audience. So traditionally, Friends of the Earth have not necessarily spoken directly to beer drinkers. And this was a really nice way of doing it. Stroud brew all organic as well, and their energy is renewably sourced.
Oh, wow.
So we wanted to work with the most sustainable brewery partner as part of this campaign.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then it keeps Friends of the Earth folks happy and helps to spread their message through beer, which is what you do with all your products. So.
Yeah.
All right, let's get stuck in. I'll leave the hard work to you.
I
You
pop
can
it
open
open?
it. And when did this one come out?
So this one we just launched over the summer.
Okay, so it's new.
So fairly recent, yes. It's still available in Able and Cole. They're our partner supplier for this project. They actually support Friends of the Earth and usually every month have a product on their online shop that gives a percentage of the proceeds to Friends of the Earth as a charity as well. Okay. So this one's on there at the moment.
Oh, that's a beautiful colour.
Yeah.
Such a nice amber colour. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you. Oh, that's really easy drinking. That's a really nice, just clean, easy amber ale.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice
All right. I will
level of
thoroughly
bitterness.
enjoy this through our chat. Yeah, exactly. And the right amount of
really-
bitterness
yeah.
to make you go back for more.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice. Okay, so that one's still available. That's good to know.
That one's still available, yes. And we do lots of different collaborations. So
we'll talk about all of those things.
Yeah, great.
All right, so you are the Global Brand and Sustainability Director for Toast Ale, which is a certified social enterprise that produces beer from surplus bread in an aim to tackle food waste. And you have been with Toast since the very beginning. You actually helped to get the business off the ground back in 2015. So firstly, tell us a bit more about Toast, and then tell us about your role from its early days up to what you're doing now.
Right, so at Toast we work with bakeries to use up their end-of-day surplus, and with the sandwich industry as well to use up the surplus bread from their processes. So when sandwich factories are making sandwiches for retail and hospitality, they're not using the heel end of the loaf, which means that for every loaf they use, there's 2 slices of fresh bread that would otherwise be wasted.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, sometimes that first slice, because the loaf is slightly rounded at the end, they would discard
It's
that.
not the right size.
It's not the right size.
Okay.
Yeah. And so huge amounts of surplus bread is available. In the UK, about 44% is usually wasted.
Wow.
That's from like the production side through to retail and in our own homes.
44%, nearly half of all bread that is produced.
Yeah, it's
doesn't get used.
Right.
Oh,
And
it's hard
most
to
of
take
it is fresh bread.
Okay, wow.
So it's a byproduct or just surplus, because it's very difficult for bakeries to predict how much bread people will want to buy, and things as simple as the weather changing means that somebody might not go to a bakery if it's raining, or they may have extra demand if it's sunny. So for bakers to get that level right is quite an art.
Yeah.
And bread is essentially wheat, which can be used to brew beer. So replacing a third of the barley that would otherwise be used with bread, the wheat, so mixing up the grain bill and creating a beer that's made partly with surplus bread and partly with malted barley.
Yeah, it's a really smart idea. So where did the idea for this all come from?
So the idea came from Tristram Stewart, who is a campaigner globally on the environmental and social impacts of food production. He had travelled to Brussels and met the Brussels Beer Project, who'd created a beer called Babylone that beer is made with surplus bread from their local bakery, and they do it at a fairly small scale. It's an amazing, great tasting beer if you get the chance to try it. And yeah, it's part of their range of beers. Tristram was inspired to use it as a way of engaging a global audience about the challenges that the food system faces, the inefficiencies. We waste such colossal scales of food. There's about a third of everything that's produced in the world is wasted. Wow. And he has a network of entrepreneurs and campaigners all around the world who are looking for neat solutions to do something positive about the problem. And also the craft beer market was booming,
taking off at the time.
Really taking off. So Tristram put those three elements together and had the idea to take toast to a big scale.
So my understanding is that he brought you in to then help set it all up. Is that right?
Right.
And
well,
what did that look like?
Yeah. So I recently started working for Tristram doing project work.
Okay.
And he'd had this idea, but wanted some support to make it a reality. So I was the one that was talking to bakeries at the time all around Hackney and London to try to understand how much surplus they had at the end of the day, and to work with them to see if we could agree to take their surplus. I also was looking for a brewery partner who was open to the challenge of brewing with bread, and would be open to working with us on the project. And then, to just set up the business and to get things started. So essentially, it was my first project working with Tristram.
What a massive project! Oh my goodness!
It didn't feel like a massive project at the time.
Okay, so you felt that it's grown in a sustainable way,
right?
As well. Okay.
Right. Looking back, we achieved a lot in a very short period of time. We did our first brew in the August. Tried it on. So Jamie Oliver and Jimmy Doherty came and filmed the first brew for their TV show Friday Night Feast, and we tasted the beer for the first time live on the show.
Oh wow!
So their episode where they're at the pier at Southend Pier.
And what a great way to get the word out right away about what you guys are
Amazing, doing. Yeah, and also just to get people tasting the beer and getting that feedback before we went public, and we just had such a positive response. That we decided to launch it with a lot of noise. We launched in January 2016.
And so how has your role changed over the years? So of course the team has grown, the business has grown. When you started, you were working on it as a project, and now of course you're the brand and sustainability director.
Right.
So how did you get from point A to point B?
So my background's really diverse. I'd studied law, I'd trained as an accountant, and then I'd been working in sustainability at...
So you're the perfect person for us to know. You can do this, you can do that.
Right. I'd been working as a consultant at the Carbon Trust, and so used to taking on projects and finding neat solutions. And I'd also taken some time out when my children were born and retrained in a way that enabled me to do flexible work. So I retrained in digital marketing with a company called Digital Mums.
My goodness, there's no career you haven't touched on at some point.
I tried a little bit of everything. And so, all of these skills were really amazingly helpful at startup level when it was when we didn't have the resources to pay somebody to be doing each of those roles, but there also wasn't a lot of work to do in each role. So I was able to do a little bit of everything. And then we took on a couple of people who specialised in the production side and in the sales side as well. And so my role kind of expanded into the marketing and finance. And for a long time, I was the finance director and the brand director.
Oh my goodness.
But those two roles don't sit very neatly together, because on one hand, you have a serious person that's wanting to control the finances. And then on the other hand, you have a very creative person that's wanting to spend a lot of money. Yeah. So as we've been able to grow and scale, we've each been able to specialise, I guess, and to develop as individuals. So I've now been 3.5 years I've spent now working on marketing within Toast, a very sort of specialised and targeted project. And so I've learnt a lot in that role, and it was really important that I was able to give up some of those other roles to be much more focused.
To hone in on the ones you need to focus on.
Right, yeah.
So yes, you were, prior to this, brand, culture, and sustainability.
Yes.
And now you're moving that one piece off your plate. In terms of those three different aspects, when we think about a brand, at least for me with marketing experience, I can understand what it means to manage a brand. You want to figure out who Toast is and how the brand speaks and who you want to partner with. When it comes to sustainability, I think there's more there I want to talk about in terms of the sustainability practices that you highlight through Toast. But just first, can we focus on culture? I want to understand, how do you manage culture for a business, especially a business that's so mission driven?
It starts right at the beginning at the recruitment stage. So the people that are joining Toast are already people that care about our mission, and that's part of our screening process when we're hiring. It's just really important that people understand what we're trying to achieve. Ultimately, our impact is our objective, and that motivates them as well. So I think if you spoke to the team today, most of them would tell you that one of the best things about working for Toast is just feeling very proud of the impact that they're able to have. A lot of it is down to having the right fit of people on the team to begin with. And then we have still a fairly small team. There's 10 of us in the UK now, and so creating those relationships between people and allowing people the autonomy to go out and to try things for themselves, trusting that they're going to do it from the right place because they're inspired and believe in the mission, but giving them that flexibility so that they can grow and learn in that role, so that it becomes a very rewarding work to do as well, but keeping us sort of a close knitted group together, so that we're all learning from each other. We have recently been reading a book together called Reinventing Organisations by Frederick LaRue, and he talks about a type of organisation called Teal, and that is very much about like self-management, so enabling people to grow through managing themselves, and that connectedness with nature and like who we are as human beings within a broader ecosystem is quite enlightening to read, and it's taking us time to learn pieces from it and embed those into what we do at Toast. But a lot of it is about that level of trust, and if people feel trusted in their role and that they have the space to be creative and to try new things and not be afraid of failure, then we have much greater ability to move together as an organisation in a really positive direction.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting to be reading that together and thinking about it together, as opposed to it just being top down, which I think is most people's management style.
Right.
Approaching management in a different way to say, let's look at this and figure out what works well for everyone, whatever level you are on the team.
Right, exactly. And that's kind of what the book is about. It's about moving away from this hierarchical way of working. And so it would have been wrong for us to have a hierarchical approach.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And, we're still learning, and we make some mistakes and we're trying to learn from those. And it's, just I think communication within the team is the most important thing, so that we feel that we can work towards our mission, and that's not just about our environmental mission, it's about our responsibility to people and to the human side of the business to be growing individuals as well. So to give people a rewarding place to work.
That it's not just we need to drive you to accomplish this mission for the greater good, it's for the individuals in the team as well.
Yeah. And from that emerges some new policies. So we've introduced, for example, an opportunity for people to take 2 days volunteering leave plus 3 days self-development leave.
Oh, that's great.
So people can, in addition to the holiday, take time out and go and support projects or initiatives in their own local community or something that they personally believe in. A big part of that was becoming part of BCorp as well. So that involves looking at people as well as environment and your impact in the community.
Yeah. So do you want to say a bit more about B corporations? The baby food company that I used to work at was one, Happy Family, and so I'm familiar with B Corps. And
Yes.
my sort of takeaway from, I wasn't the one on the team getting us B Corp certified. I know that's a lot of work, and I think that was your responsibility.
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, we can speak to that. My understanding is they use business as a force for good, essentially. So why pursue B Corp certification, and what did that take?
Yeah, so B Corps are businesses that meet a minimum standard in terms of their environmental and social responsibility.
So at least those boxes were easy to tick for you guys.
Well, the environmental aspect was very easy for us to tick. So the process that you go through is you complete an impact assessment online, which is about a 2-hour assessment, and then you go through quite a rigorous process of audit with B Lab, which is the business that owns B Corp. And actually the sections that are about people, we scored quite poorly on because at the time there were 4 of us working mostly from home without any formal policies at all.
So that culture and those policies weren't there
No,
previously. Okay.
the culture was naturally there because we were aligned as individuals.
You're mission driven, yeah.
But we didn't have any controls in place to keep it that way as we grew. And so going through the B Corp process really did help us to think about what we wanted the culture to be and what therefore we needed to be offering people and what processes and controls did need to be in place, and then enabled us to go through the process of introducing those. But the other aspects of B Corp, it is a public certification, so we can talk to people about being a B Corp and what that means. It's not very well known in the UK.
No, definitely better known in the States.
Yeah. I think it will grow in awareness here because there are lots of bigger brands that are certifying now. So, we've got Puckety, Innocent were quite a recent certification, Divine Chocolate, Ben & Jerry's, Ecova, lots of those big brands that people will recognise. And even Waitrose has got behind the B Corp community and created a B Corp aisle on their online shop.
Wow, that's
where
amazing.
They're also talking about what it means to be a B Corp. So part of it was about that certification and demonstrating that we weren't just saying that we were doing good for the environment, we'd had an independent audit of that. But a lot of it is about being part of a broader community. And for a small business, that was amazing because it gives us access to friends and colleagues that we can share knowledge and experience with beyond our small team. We collaborate on partnerships related to marketing, sales, and our impact as well. So like how we can increase public awareness, but also increase our impact as a community. And it's been a really amazing experience.
Yeah, I remember them being a great group of people.
Yeah, great people to
and
be
everyone
working
wanted
with.
to work together.
Yeah,
which is always really nice.
very open and sharing community. Really nice.
Oh, that's so good to hear.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully it continues to grow in the UK as well.
Yeah.
So let's talk a bit about the sustainability part of your role. So prior to coming to work for Tristram, you had mentioned you were at the Carbon Trust as a consultant. So what was your experience with sustainability strategies, and then what does the sustainability look like with Toast?
My focus at the Carbon Trust was on product footprinting and corporate footprinting. So from a product perspective, understanding the whole life cycle of a product, from the raw ingredients that are used to produce it, and the production process, distribution, emissions at the sales side. So for beer, for example, refrigerant emissions.
I just think about the delivery trucks, but I didn't think about refrigeration.
Right, yeah. And a lot of beers, they're ambient products, so they can be on the shelves, but I think a lot of brewers would like them to be chilled.
Them to be refrigerated, yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously when you get into pubs, etc., then they're chilled.
In the cellar, yep.
In the cellar, yeah.
So how do you learn to do these calculations? It always fascinates me that someone says, you can offset your journey by this much. This is the damage you're doing to the planet almost. But how do you go about doing that research? So
a full detailed life cycle analysis in LCA takes a lot of time.
I can imagine.
It's the first stage is just to map out that process.
Okay.
So just to understand what happens from that loaf of bread or that that grain of wheat or that grain of barley and that little hop, and then what journey that all goes through to decide what is in the scope of your assessment. So there'll be some elements that you may want to exclude because you perhaps don't have control over them. So for example, if you sell to a distributor and then the distributor sells your beer, it's very hard for you to measure what the journey is for them, what their emissions are. But then even when you understand that, how do you control that or change that, unless you're a big, powerful brewery? So a little bit is about understanding what that scope is within your control, and then gathering what they call activity data. So that is the volume of the ingredients or the amount of energy that you're using. And there are then lots of databases that have conversion factors that will tell you, to grow barley, for example, what emissions are involved in the life cycle of growing barley. So somebody has already done a very detailed assessment, a life cycle assessment of barley, that means you can use the conversion factor.
Okay. Oh my goodness. So you were doing this for non-beer products.
For non-beer products.
When you first got started.
Yes.
And then were able to use those skills coming to beer.
Right, and so a lot of my work was about the product footprinting, also corporate footprinting, so just understanding as a business where your emissions are, not necessarily tied to a specific product, and then wider policy work as well, which could include how you change behaviour within your employees or even with your customers or your suppliers, for example. So behaviour change campaigns. And I think a lot of what I learned, as well as the technical skills of footprinting, was about the psychology of achieving behaviour change,
which
for
is
people.
so challenging.
Right. Yes.
Are there any easy wins? Any insight you want to give away?
I think a lot of it is about creating an emotional reaction from people, and to help people see the impact that it will have on them personally, and the benefit that it will have from a personal perspective as well. And also just to make it really easy. If you make it feel too challenging, too difficult, then people will switch off. Yeah. At the same time, you want to make it clear that lots of small changes can have a bigger impact, so that people don't get put off feeling that
this
changes
one little thing won't make a difference.
Exactly.
With my background in public health before coming here, I was studying food safety and nutrition, and the nutrition piece was so difficult, trying to encourage people to eat healthier. Right. Getting that behavior change piece. And the main takeaway from public health was, if you can make the default option the healthy option, then it's easier for people to make that decision. Right. So it's little things like that, or like you said, almost making it fun to engage in sustainability, which is why beer comes in.
Right, which is what we're doing with Toast, exactly.
Yeah. So you had all of this sort of technical expertise. How much of it did you need to use in terms of the sustainability side at Toast? Or was it more about understanding the sustainability sector to make sure that you were able to communicate about it properly when making the beer?
I think so far it's been that broader understanding that's been really important, but also, to help understand what's going on around us and the environment that we're operating in, to understand some of the policy issues and some of the things that are happening at a policy level, and what that therefore might mean for us as a business, for our customers, and how to translate that into the day-to-day work that we're doing. But increasingly it is becoming more technical, and I'm having to remember back to, to what I was doing. Yeah, so we've, for example, we've just completed a hotspot analysis. So it wasn't a detailed LCA, but looking at where the biggest impact is likely to be across our supply chain, and working with an organisation called Advance London, that's part of the London Waste and Recycling Board. We got some free support from them. And now we've completed that analysis, identified that the biggest hotspot for us that we can control is in our packaging.
Ah, okay.
So there are other elements that are quite significant within the process of making toast, but we contract brew, and so some of those will sit with our brewery partners. And it's been a really interesting and informative process, because it's knowledge that we can share with our partners and to help them to improve their processes. But for us, it's been the packaging that we've focused in on.
And is that the impetus for moving from bottles to cans, hopefully?
So we're hoping not to move away from bottles, but to add cans to the range. And that's partly driven by the changes in the market.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone seems to be moving to cans these days.
Yeah. So we've been watching it happen in like the craft beer community for a while, and then the supermarkets have definitely picked up on that, and their range changes are moving more towards cans, the bigger cans as well.
Are there sustainability benefits? I have been led to believe that there are, but you'd be the right person to advise one way or the other.
So the other aspect is that aluminium is lighter. So from a distribution perspective, there are less emissions associated with moving cans than there are with moving glass bottles. The shape of the can also means that ergonomically it's easier to stack, and so you can fill more cans into the same space, much more efficient, which is for both distribution and storage. So taking up less space in fridges, for example, makes the emissions from refrigeration more efficient. In terms of recyclability, both glass and aluminium can be recycled indefinitely. So there's not really one benefit over the other.
I had heard that cans were more easily recyclable, but that's not necessarily the case.
Depends a little bit on where you live and what the policies are.
What the availability is of recycling in your neighbourhood.
But the
broadly
actual
speaking,
process means they can both be recycled. Aluminium could be made into more cans forever and ever and ever, or other objects. And similarly with glass, the glass is a little bit more complicated because you have the clear glass, the green glass, and the brown glass that have different qualities. But it is still a material that can be reused and reused. For the actual recycling process, aluminium is more energy intensive, quite significantly so, to mine as well. So to get virgin ingredients to produce the can, virgin materials. So recycling is really important with aluminium. The higher the recycled content, the better the footprint of the can would be. There are pros and cons to both of them. Aluminium cans seem to be coming out the winner, though, from a sustainability perspective.
Thank you. I feel very enlightened now. That was right. The right person to talk to get all those answers. Any other bits on sustainability that you want to talk about, or can I switch to the last string in your bow, which is your brand work?
From a sustainability perspective, we set our impact target of 1 million slices when we set the company up, and it felt like a huge ambition. At the end of last year, 2018, we hit that target.
Oh my goodness, congratulations. That's incredible.
Yeah, so 1 million slices, if you stack them up, would be 1.5 times the height of Everest.
Wow.
So it's a huge amount of bread.
And that was in 3 years.
So that was in our first 2 years.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. And now we're scaling up, so more and more every year.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, we've set ourselves a target of 1 billion, so...
Okay, we'll see how many years it takes to get here.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last bit of your current title, even though you've done many other bits throughout the years at Toast, is about the brand management piece. And that was sort of one of the later strings to your bow. You said you came to digital marketing a little bit later. So where did you learn your marketing expertise, and how do you use it day to day?
So, digital marketing, like the technical expertise, I learnt when I was with Digital Mums. So that's a training course for women that have mostly worked in marketing before but are looking to develop new skills and to enable them to work flexibly so that they can manage childcare and their work. So I spent 6 months training with them, and then worked with mostly food businesses around London and the South, just doing digital marketing. The rest I have learnt as I've been on the job, to be honest. I've met so many amazing people who've coached me along the ways and shared advice and insight. I read a lot all the time, and then just testing to see what works, what doesn't work, and making sure that we learn from mistakes that we made, or where things have worked out really well, make sure that, again, we're learning from those and how we can continue to improve on those. But yeah, I'm really lucky to be surrounded by really great network of people, and to have such an amazing brand to
It
practice
makes
with.
it easy when it's a good brand to talk about.
Yeah. And then I guess some of the work that I was doing before on sustainability policy change, so understanding behaviour. A lot of marketing is obviously about trying to influence people. So I obviously come from it from a different angle before, but that awareness of how to change behaviours and beliefs has been really important.
Yeah, that's a great point. So your actual training was in law and accounting.
Right.
What did you think you were going to do when you set out down that path, and how did you end up on this path instead?
Well, I think when I started university, I had no idea, which was why I chose law, because I figured it would just be a really good solid degree to have. And as part of my course, it was a 4-year course, and my 3rd year was spent in industry. And I just really didn't fancy going and being a clerk or, doing sort of admin in a law firm, because I didn't feel that was the direction I was going to go, and that I wasn't therefore going to get experience that would help me develop in for the future. So my 3rd year I spent at a company, General Electric, up in Leeds in the north, and I was doing management accounting for them, which is the kind of interesting side of accounting because it's all about
the high level.
It's high level, but also it's like analysis essentially. Rather than putting together the numbers, it's analysing the numbers and what does that mean for the business? How do we find opportunities? Where are there risks, etc. I had enjoyed that year, so thought I may go off in that direction, which is why I began my career at what was the FSA, the Financial Services Authority, is now the FCA, Financial Conduct Authority, and I was there for 7 years doing various roles, including kind of very analytical roles, project management, was running the project management office. I was an investigator for a while. Forensic investigator, so looking at trading patterns of stocks and shares and looking for patterns that looked suspicious.
Oh my goodness.
It was it was very interesting.
Is there any job you haven't held after you've tried everything and they've all served you?
They've all been very useful in the end, yes.
Yeah. What's one thing that you have used in your current role at Toast that you never expected to from your previous careers?
I guess just joining a startup, don't realise how broad a range of skills you're going to need. And we're looking at the moment at trademarks as we grow internationally.
So that law background.
So that law background is a little bit useful. Yeah. We also did an equity raise last year called Equity for Good. So because all of our profits go to charity, we don't pay dividends, but also we wanted to take on investors who believed in the mission of Toast that would help us to grow, but then any profits that they would make would continue to do good. So they've signed a pledge to reinvest any net capital profits into other social enterprises.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, and so I was the one that was taking us through the investment round, dealing with the legal side and the financial side. So I guess the financial acumen and the legal side has held me in good stead. Yeah.
So your career took you into this consulting role, which brought you into the environmental and sustainability space, which then brought you to beer.
Yeah.
So had you had any interest in beer or experience with beer previously? Were you a beer drinker, or was this a whole nother world you needed to learn about as well?
This was a whole other world. I was a whiskey drinker.
Okay, hey, there's some similarities. Whiskey starts as a beer, pretty much.
That's true. I think at university I tried beers, but they would have been the Heineken and the Carlsbergs of this world, and so I just never really liked beer. It was only really when we started Toast and I was able to try craft beers and the amazing range of different products that were available, and how good they were, and that they didn't taste like I expected beer to taste, that it's really gripped me, and I've become quite an obsessive beer drinker. So I go out for dinner with my friends and there'll be a bottle of wine on the table and I'll have a pint glass.
You'll still have your beer. Yep.
Yeah, I'm definitely a convert. Yeah.
You mentioned that Toast primarily contract brews, so you'll work with another brewery to produce your core range of beers.
Yeah.
But other breweries can get involved as well by doing collaborations like the one that we're drinking. So if a brewery was interested, how would they get involved in doing a collaboration with you?
Get in touch with us, hello@toastale.com as a first means of contact. We have got a schedule of collaborations that we're working on at the moment, so some really interesting ones coming up.
Cool.
We're actually doing a collaboration with the Brussels Beer Project.
Oh, where it all began. That's very cool.
So I'm so excited about that one. And then some really interesting ones lined up. So for each of our collaboration beers, a percentage of the revenue will go to a charity. As part of our commitment is that we use local bread with a local bakery and support a local charity, or in the case of this one with Friends of the Earth, a national charity that's aligned with our environmental mission. And yeah, provided that everything works, then we will schedule in a brew and probably get a lot of the Toast team down to get involved, at least in the bread preparation stage, because that takes up quite a lot of hands.
Does it need to be broken up?
Yes. Okay. So usually we receive sliced bread,
yeah,
and then it has to be torn into smaller pieces.
Oh dear. Yeah. Okay, so that's a good effort. But you get beer at the end of it in a few weeks.
There's beer at the end.
So
it's quite fun as well. Yeah. It's a good team building day. Yeah.
So when did this mission of sustainability and environmentalism and food waste speak to you? What was your emotional connection that made you want to get involved in this movement?
So I think I've always been an environmentalist, and working with Tristram, it suddenly opened my eyes to a huge opportunity. So food production is one of the biggest contributors to climate change and biodiversity loss. And yet we're wasting a third of everything we produce, which
it's hard to wrap your head around.
It's crazy, isn't it? But that's a huge opportunity for us to do something positive about climate change and biodiversity, simply by making sure that we're producing only as much as we need and we're eating everything that we produce. Mm-hmm. So I was really excited that this was a positive story. And I think the other aspect of it is the injustices that operate within the existing food system. So at the moment, as we talked about, there's so much food that goes to waste, but there's also so many people that don't have enough food to eat.
So many access issues.
Yes, yeah. And I don't like to think of it as food poverty, because I think of it as poverty. I think we shouldn't see dealing with food waste and dealing with people not having enough to eat as one being able to solve the other. I think we need to deal with poverty, so that's making sure that people have enough money to live and to buy food, because the risk otherwise is that you end up making food or forcing food prices down and down and down, which makes the food production system even less positive for the environment. Where there is surplus food, rather than it being wasted, so as a way of dealing with food waste, it can be diverted to support like food banks, for example, but it's not a sustainable solution. But it is just a symbol of how inefficient the food system is, and how that it's developed really for profit. And we haven't created a food system that's designed to feed people and protect the environment. So that all needs turning around. So yeah, I guess, I grew up in a low-income single-parent household, and understanding the scale of poverty and from a food perspective as well, and then seeing knowing how much food is being wasted was really emotional for me, and made me want to do something about it.
Yeah, and like you said, that's what it takes, actually having a connection and a reason to believe in the mission is what's going to get people to change their behaviour and make a difference. Yeah. So clearly you're very passionate about what you do. What aspect of your role do you enjoy the most?
Oh, my role is different nearly every day. It's fantastic. I mean, I think a lot of it is about the creativity. I think that's the side of brand and marketing that I really enjoy. And yeah, being able to find a way of telling a story that really engages people, and you can see that you're able to communicate quite a complex issue to people in a fairly simple way that gets them excited about doing something as well. So being able to influence change through really fun and creative ways. And then the team, really, I have such an amazing group of co-workers. We have a lot of fun together, and just a really inspiring bunch of people. So I get a lot of pleasure from
being
just
at work
just
every
hanging
day.
out. Yeah.
Well, clearly Toast has been a success story to date, and the plans are only to continue to keep growing it. So you now have presence in the US, in South Africa, in Brazil, in Iceland. What does the future look like for Toast, and what's your role in helping to achieve those goals?
Yeah, we also launched in Ireland earlier this year
exciting.
as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're brewing with Rascals Brewery in Dublin. Yep. And our plans are to continue to grow. Bread is wasted all over the world. There are breweries all over the world and people wanting to take action on climate change. And we want to find ways of enabling more breweries to join us, and so to make it easier for the industry as a whole to become part of a circular economy with bakeries, and bring together the bakeries and breweries so we can, as a group, look to eliminate bread waste in particular, but influence broader change on food waste. And then my role, who knows? Wow, my role's changed so much over the past
true. I'm sure you couldn't have predicted that you would be here. So who knows what you'll be doing in a few years' time.
Yeah, so my role, I love the role. I also, as it's a global role, work with the team in the US.
Okay, yeah, I did want to ask that. Do you oversee the brand globally now and help all of the different countries?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And we're looking now at how we grow in the US. New York is where we started. It's been a very difficult market, very competitive, and there are a lot of controls around the market.
In terms of distribution, especially.
Yeah. Yes. So
very different in the UK.
There's been a lot of learning around that.
Oh, you're going to be a beer distribution expert in the States by the end of all this. And every state is different, so if you want to go to a different state, yeah, there are other issues.
Yeah, so it'll depend on the direction that we go in the US, but I think as the brand becomes better known in the business, more successful in the UK, I will probably be turning my attention more to our international work.
So what I think is quite interesting about Toast is that some of the things that you've mentioned, you are not only working in the beer industry, you're in touch with the food industry, the sustainability sector, I think in a way that most breweries are not as engaged with different industries. Are there any learnings that you've taken back from these different industries that will help us work together, or other things you think that other people in the beer industry should be looking more outwardly at to work with other industries?
I think the BCorp community has been an interesting way of looking very differently at a cross-industry way of working, and I've learned a lot in terms of marketing is an obvious one, it being my job title, about the different campaigns and different channels that other companies are taking, but I think also just seeing the power that a group can have to influence change. So BCorp in the UK, the actual BCorp team is, I think, 3 or 4 people.
Wow, very tiny.
Very tiny company. Okay. And the brand BCorp is growing through the brands that are BCorp. So we all work together to support a bigger mission. And I think that's really an interesting way of looking at things differently. I think it's about finding what is it about brewers where we can be more powerful together than competing. And already, there are a lot of breweries that are making changes from a sustainability perspective, or a lot of them that have been sustainable for a long time in terms of the materials, the water use, packaging as well. And we're now also seeing lots of breweries using different ingredients. So there's a few that are doing it with bread as well. Adnams has done a project with M&S, for example. There's another brewery up in Manchester, Seven Brothers, who have just recently done a really cool collab with Kellogg's using their cereal. Today. And, I think that's amazing. And we're really proud to see that change happening in the industry, and not to see it as competitive, but for us all to be able to support each other and find ways of tackling that, what is our bigger question what was our bigger mission ultimately.
Well, Toast has won several awards for your work over the years. You won the Beer Insider Marketing Award in 2017 for Best Innovation. You won silver at the International Beer Challenge recently. And then even more recently, you won an award from the British Renewable Energy Association for sustainability. What accomplishment, maybe one of those, maybe something different, are you most proud of on behalf of Toast?
It would be the Great Taste Awards. So we won Great Taste Award on our IPA, a 1-star, and our lager and pale ale won 2 stars. And for us, that was real recognition of the work that we put into the quality and the taste of the beer. We've been working on the recipe since we launched, essentially, on improving it all the time, taking on board customer feedback, looking at changing customer preferences for taste. And it's been really important to us that the product isn't a novelty product, that yes, we're solving a big problem, but we don't want people to drink it on the days that they're feeling like they need to do something positive for the environment. We want them to drink it every day, well, not every day, drink responsibly.
When they want a beer, you want the first beer that comes to mind.
Yeah, because they enjoy the beer, because they like the taste of it. So we worked really hard to get the taste right, and to get that recognition was a hugely proud moment for everybody in the team.
Wow, and to think you're, hitting all of these sustainability numbers, and you're just like, yep, that's the mission of the business. Are we making great beer? That's what makes us happy. Okay, I feel like I could talk to you forever, but I'm gonna, in the interest of time, get to my one last question for you, which is, what do you enjoy most about being a part of the beer industry?
Meeting people like you. Really, it's been, so I talk about BCorp being a really welcoming community, but I find the beer industry just as welcoming. I should probably say I've got like a big cheesy grin on my face, which no one can see. But sorry, I didn't mean to come across so cheesy, but it has been brilliant. I was at the International Women's Day brew at Wildcard earlier this year, and I think there must have been about 50 women. 50 women, I think. 50 women there.
It was a full house.
There was an amazing turnout, and just the energy and the friendliness of the day was brilliant. I had a great day and great conversations, and felt like I was really welcome. And for somebody who's only been working in beer for a fairly short period, and I'm not a beer expert at all, it's really nice to not feel judged for that, and to feel like everybody has exactly, and everybody has a role to play within the industry. But great people, friendly and really open, and willing to share knowledge and teach you.
You're in 2 great communities. You've got your beer community, your BCorp community.
Yeah.
So, best of both worlds. Well, thank you very much for your time, all your sustainability insights. I feel smarter already just after this conversation, and now we have more beer to enjoy.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Louisa. It's so great to hear about the hard work that you and your team are doing to champion such an important cause. Next week, you'll hear from Ellie Walsh, General Manager at Brewdog Canary Wharf. If you can believe it, that's us halfway through Season 2. If there's anyone in the industry that you'd like to hear from, please do let me know. Thanks, and chat soon.